In life, I like to have lots of options. And on this week's hunt, we're definitely going to have lots of options. It's a Montana destination getaway this week on Steele's Reel in the Outdoors. If you follow Reel in the Outdoors, you may have seen an episode a while back where we went to Montana and we hunted elk with Jammin Krebs from Western Timberline Outfitter. Jammin has a great operation, has a super set of ranches, and he's a lot of fun to hunt with.
Give a big old kiss, bud.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. Just congratulating Butch on his, I'm going to guess it's about 170, about 177.
But one of the things that I kept asking him about was what's it like to hunt these things, these big mule deer with a bow during the rut? He said, well, you know, I've really never done it. He said, we rifle hunt during the rut. You have to wear an orange vest. He said, but you know, by law, you can hunt with a bow or a muzzleloader or a rifle. You can basically pick your poison. And I had a combination deer and elk tag, and he said, you know what, man, why don't you come back in the middle of November? He said, we'll throw an orange vest on you and see if you can get one of these big mule deer in the bottoms. And he said, you know what might be really cool is we're going to get a chance to rattle them up. The fact that this was kind of a last-minute deal for me, you know, sometimes my schedule's planned a year in advance, meant that I had to fit this hunt into a very short window of opportunity. My actual time of hunting was only going to be about 2.5 days. And I felt like if it's as good as he says it is, it would be worth the flight out there, even if it was just for a couple of days of hunting.
Now let's say it again, Joe. Oh, there we go. He's going to check that other... Oh, he's got a doe too. Boy, he is a nice buck, though, isn't he?
Oh my God, the guys are on drugs.
He's just a good straight four. What brow time. And you know what? Look, you see his nose now? Mm-hmm. See how not bent it is? Mm-hmm. He's a 4-year-old buck, man. He can be better, so what do? We start to drive. Right, Joe?
The night before I left, Jammin gave me a call and he said, you know what? He said, you're going to be on a pretty tight leash with that schedule of yours. He said, definitely, you know, bring your bow, and that's going to be our primary focus, is trying to kill one with a bow. He said, but throw that night inline in there too. He said, if we come down to crunch time and we get an opportunity at a big giant mule deer, he said, if we have to, we'll take him with that night. The first morning of the hunt, we headed down into the river bottoms, and you got to kind of picture how this ranch lays. You've got big mountains in the background, and then you've got some rolling hills and a lot of high desert type country, and then you've got this really fertile, really rich river bottom, and they are just full of whitetails and full of mule deer, and it's irrigated, so you've got alfalfa fields on both sides. When the rut's on, the whitetails, they stay in the bottom. They're doing their thing. But every mule deer buck within miles comes to that river bottom because that's where the does are. And it wasn't 5 minutes of rattling and we had a buck in our lap. Now, I know that was a little guy, but you could tell by his posture and the way he came to the horns. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind it was going to be everything that Jammin had described it to be. This rattle hunt was going to be probably as cool as anything I'd ever done. We moved a couple of times to different vantage points, and the key with rattling is the wind. Boy, you got to have the wind in your favor. And we set up different areas and had quite a few different opportunities at small bucks that would move through and come into the rattle. But we got in one particular little drainage, one little valley that was fairly thick, and it was deer central. I think that probably it was the most exciting hour of deer hunting I'd ever had in my whole life. We finally get to where we felt like the wind was right, and we came into this little bottom, and it was one of those deals where it kind of reminded me of southern Ohio. I mean, you could maybe see 100 yards at tops. Sometimes 40, 50 yards is all you could see. Fairly thick cover. And you could hear antlers gnashing, and you could hear deer moving around. And we got set up. Jammin got behind me and started rattling and using that little bleat can and making some grunts. And it was like the earth opened up. I had deer coming from every direction. I mean, it was insane. One of the coolest things for me, though, was the fact that I'm set up on 3 or 4 mule deer. Jammin's been rattling, and now I got mule deer that are coming in, and you could see this mule deer kind of in the bottom running this doe around, and he was paying attention to us, but he was more paying attention to her, and I'm focused on this mule deer. I mean, totally focused. And all of a sudden, I get this tss, and it's Jammin behind me, and I turn around, and here comes this beautiful 8-point whitetail. Now, I'm wanting a mule deer. Mule deer is what I came there for. That's what Jammin wanted me to take, and that's what I was going to stick with. But boy, I had this 8-pointer. He had one tine broken off, okay, and he was about maybe like a 125 class buck, just a beautiful buck, and he was not going to take no for an answer. He wanted to find out who was rattling, where those horns were, and he was coming in fast and hard. Whitetails are so alert typically, but when they get in that heated rut deal, and mule deer are the same way, they're kind of stupid. And it was kind of funny because Jammin's filming me and I'm filming Jammin, and we're going to the whitetail, and I even drew just to prove that I could have taken that big buck if I'd have wanted him. And it was just a really awesome segment. But, a couple of minutes into it, I'm like, man, you got to get out of here because I got a whole bottom full of mule deer that we really need to concentrate on. So we literally just got him to leave so we could go back to hunting mule deer.
That was the coolest thing I ever did in my life. I got a big mule deer here. I got a whitetail there that I would have shot any day of the week. But when you got a giant mule deer here, it's like you got one chance. That was over the top.
We changed positions just a little bit and kind of moved deeper into the bottom, and we started rattling. Jammin's rattling, and I'm using the little bleak can, and man, here come a really nice buck, and he's right on the tail of a doe. And things happen so fast in those rutting situations that the deer came in from across the creek. He made a turn, and there was a spot there, and you watch it, you can tell that I should have made my draw, so that when he came into the open, I could have taken the shot. It was 35 yards max. And I think that Jammin was behind me just going, what are you doing? But, it's like that moment of indecision. Do I draw now or do I wait? And when Jammin started to grunt with his mouth, I knew I'd waited way too long because I hadn't drawn. And that deer stopped broadside, 35 yards, gave me just enough time to make the shot if I'd have been at a draw. But, hindsight, yep, should have pulled back. I didn't, and we let that one get away. You need to understand, too, that all these setups, they're happening. It's almost real time what you're seeing. Literally, the only thing that's cut out is our time that we moved from one spot to another. Sometimes there was a 100 to 150 yard move. Well, we dropped over this little lip and got set up and started rattling. And there was an area there that was just absolutely infested with mule deer. And there was one shooter buck that I really wanted. And the problem was there were so many bucks coming into me that I couldn't get to him because of all these other bucks. And if you watch them, they just come in. They're wanting to find out what's going on. Where's the rattling coming from? Where's the grunting and the bleating coming from? And the whole time, this beautiful, beautiful old buck is back there just tearing this tree down. He's just rubbing the tree. You can see this tree shaking, and there's nothing I can do because I couldn't get to him. finally, I don't know if they winded us or they caught a little movement. Those three nice bucks, they bailed out. The does moved on, and I was able to make my stalk on that big deer. And he was so intent on tearing this tree down, he was oblivious to everything that was going on. So basically, I had Jammin stay back. I got my bow cam rolling, and I decided I'm going to go right for that deer. And a lot of times, if they're really in tune with what's going on, you can slip up on them when they're tearing the trees down, and you can get right on top of them and make the shot. Well, I decided to go right at that deer, and I felt like if I got in on him and he was still doing his thing, I might get a shot. But the problem is between he and I, there was this one little open area with very little cover, just some short grass and some scrub willow trees, and it wasn't going to allow me a whole lot of cover. So, once again, I kept Jammin back, said keep rolling the camera, and I'm going to go right in on that deer. And I got about halfway across the opening. I closed the gap from about 90 yards to about 45, maybe 50 yards, and he came up. I don't know if he caught my movement or what. And I remember I'm wearing orange, so there's some issues there. He looks up and he looks right at me, and he's got me. He's got me cold busted. I mean, I'm there, and there's nothing I can do. And we start into this Mexican standoff, the staring, and he's got snot dripping out of his nose. And he starts this shifting, wiggling thing, which I've yet to figure that whole thing out. And he never got spooky. I thought, you know what, man? If you're going to just stand there, I'm going to get into where I can make the shot. And from the camera's perspective, you think that, boy, it's just a wide open shot, man. You need to take that shot. But there was some stuff in the way, and that was a really nice deer. I wanted to get a good shot on him. And I kept thinking that just maybe if I hang out long enough, he'll drop his head and turn sideways and give me a shot. But unfortunately, I just pushed the issue too much. I pushed and got closer and pushed and got closer, and finally he just said, you know what? I don't care how hot the rut is. That's not a doe mule deer, and I'm out of here. We had so many opportunities. I passed up so many deer with my bow, and it was the coolest 2 days of hunting I'd ever experienced. But we get up to hunt that final morning, and Jamie said, Joe, you got 4 hours to hunt, man. Throw the muzzle loader in there. And he said, we'll try it with a bow for the first couple hours. If we get one and we can't get him in close, let's put a tag on one. I'm like, I'm all about it. Sling the night and we go hunting. And we were looking for this deer that we'd seen the night before. It was a great big wide 4x3, big mule deer. And we got down there and we kind of glassed this bottom, and right off the bat, Jammin picks him out. He's running a doe across this oxbow, this point of land that sticks out into the river, and the wind was just terrible. Wind's everything. So what we decided to do was to drop out of the field into the river bottom, and it was steep. I mean, straight up and down. And we would go around him and then try and peek back up over, get an idea where he was at, and then maybe get the shot once the wind was right, because the wind was blowing towards the point. So we skirted that edge, man, and we were slipping and sliding, and we peeked up a couple of times, made a few calls, and finally we got to the very end. We slipped up over, and I knew the cover was too open, so I laid the bow down, grabbed the knight, and we eased in for that big mule deer, and here's what happened.
On the turf. Good job, Jammin. Yeah, man.
Listen to this. When he's looking at that, I'm looking behind at a bad boy whitetail. And I go, it's a big whitetail. Did you hear it?
Yeah, but I'm not allowed to shoot those. You already told me.
I know. I already rattled it in here. I turn around and I saw your gun up, and I look over, and there's a big rat coming through there.
Hey, you know what, man? That was cool.
Tell me you got it. Tell me just.
Oh, I got it.
Tell me. It was. The buck was like this, and all there was. The buck was just standing like this, and all I saw was a cloud of smoke. That's it. That's all you see in a muzzleloader.
On the turf.
On the turf. Dude. You gotta admit, this has been, you know what, I did this for a long time. I'm telling you, no kidding. The last few days have been, like you said, over the top, but I mean over the top. I mean, really, it's almost unbelievable. It's surreal.
Yeah, if you told a person that it would be this good, they would absolutely call you a liar.
I would never even tell anybody it's this good. It's good.
But you know what? I will. We're gonna tell about 20 million people how good it was.
For more information on a Montana hunting trip of a lifetime, contact Jammin Krebs at Western Timberline Outfitters. I'm Joe Thomas, and I'll catch you next week on Steele's Reel in the Outdoors.